because I thought it was just monofilament that it was hooked to, and I was going to cut the monofilament and be done. So I hand him the camera, he hands me the pliers, and then I begin to try and work to get the shark free. I tried to calm it down and roll it over, put it to sleep. That didn't work. The way the line was pulling on its mouth, I just couldn't get it to roll over and calm. So I had to kind of do what I needed to do to get it off.
Welcome to the Animals Around the Globe expedition.
Okay, hello Tazz. Welcome to Animals Around the Globe. Thank you for joining us today.
Well, so I'm Tazz Felde. I've been diving now since 2012. I started as an open water diver, obviously, where everybody starts, and then I wanted to get into the professional side of it. And then, sharks have always been kind of a passion since the very beginning. Since my first dive, I always wanted to see a shark. There's always that Jaws factor. It's a little bit scary. And then I realized sharks aren't that scary. And so as many times as possible, I would try to dive with sharks if I could. I travel quite a bit to Jupiter. I don't know if you're familiar with Jupiter, Florida, but there are a lot of sharks in Jupiter, Florida, because of, where the rivers dump out into the ocean. There's a lot of nutrients there for fish, and sharks go there to eat quite a bit. So spend a lot of time in Jupiter, and down there, I realized that sharks aren't these man-eating crazy predators that they're depicted to be. And I got to interact with them more closely on a personal level. So I just really fell in love with sharks.
Awesome. So for those of you watching, Tazz was involved in a rescue of a nurse shark in Florida. And like you previously mentioned, your wife was the one to call you. Talk us through that event and everything that led up to it, the actual event of rescuing this nurse shark, and some things that have happened since then.
Okay, so my wife runs a boat in Destin, so she's the captain of a snuba boat. And if you don't know what snuba is, it's very similar to scuba, but you don't have to wear all the gear. You have tanks that are in a raft, and you have a hose with a regulator, and you go down 20 feet or so. So she runs that program for Destin Snorkel. She had a diver come on the boat and said, "Hey, me and my son were diving at Beasley Park, which was where this event took place, and they witnessed a nurse shark that appeared to be tethered to one of the artificial reefs that we have there." So she said, "Well, what did you guys do? Did you free it? What were you able to do?" And so he told her, "No, we couldn't get it off the reef. We left it there." So if you've ever met my wife, you'll know that kind of made her mad. She was like, "Are you kidding me?" Maybe in harsher language, "Are you kidding me? You just left it there?" So she calls me on the phone immediately, and she says, "You are going to save a shark today." And I said, What are you talking about? And she kind of walked me through it. And I said, okay. I said, well, I need to know where I'm going. And so I talked to that diver, and, he kind of described the reefs. So the reef system I'm familiar with because I actually teach there. And he kind of told me about where it was on the reef system. There's I want to say 55 to 65 separate individual reefs on that system. And you'd have to see it to know what I'm talking about. But he kind of described where it was. And sure enough, I started going that way. My buddy from work jumped in the car with me. He goes with me. I said, "Hey, you want to go save a shark?" He's like, "Yeah, I want to save a shark." So we go. We get in the water. It's probably a 5 or 6 minute swim out to the site. We drop down, and sure enough, the shark was there. And if you looked at the video, I had the camera, and you can see that the shark is laying under a reef like a nurse shark would normally do. And then as I swam around the reef to the front of the shark, you can see where that hook is hooked into its mouth, and it can't move very far. It's just kind of swaying back and forth on the reef. So at that point, I gave the camera to Diver Dan. That's my buddy. I gave him the camera, and, I'm looking at this now. What I didn't realize was there was a 5-foot steel cable attached to that hook, which was what was around that reef. Luckily, Dan had grabbed a pair of pliers that had a cutting edge on it before we got in the water. He's like, "Do you think we're gonna need this?" And I'm like, "I don't know. Bring it. I don't know," because I thought it was just monofilament that it was hooked to, and I was going to cut the monofilament and be done. So I hand him the camera. He hands me the pliers, and then I begin to try and work to get the shark free. I tried to calm it down and roll it over, put it to sleep. That didn't work. The way the line was pulling on its mouth, I just couldn't get it to roll over and calm. So I had to kind of do what I needed to do to get it off. So I was able to kind of cut that steel cable, and it freed it. And then if you look at the video, the pliers kind of go with it. So, and I've seen some comments online where people are like, "Oh, now it's got pliers hanging from it and all of these things. It would have been better off." And it kind of makes me mad because they weren't there. They don't know, but those pliers
Yeah.
fell off eventually. But it was free and it was able to move about. And once it was free, it swam off and left. So that was kind of the way the event, kind of went down. And then, of course, after it was done, we finished our dive. We cleaned up all the monofilament. We probably had a ball of monofilament about that big by the
Wow.
time we got done. Yeah, it was a lot.
Awesome. Yeah, you said the comments are saying that, it's just a nurse shark, but I mean, nurse sharks don't have teeth that maybe as intimidating as your great whites or your reef sharks, but they have a very powerful jaw to, crush the shells and yeah, things that they're picking up off the floor. So yeah, I would imagine there's still some significant amount of harm or potential for some harm there. And you mentioned that you attempted to roll the
Yeah,
shark over. Could you explain to the audience why you tried to do that and what you maybe anticipated happening?
So I've actually rolled sharks over before on their back, and they call it tetanic immobility. And what it does, it calms the shark. It kind of puts them to sleep, puts them in a trance, and then you can manipulate the shark easily that way. I've done it with smaller sharks, in particular nurse sharks, but never one. I estimate that shark was about 7 feet. It was pretty big, and I tried it, and it just didn't work because of the way that line was hooked into its mouth, and it kind of went over its body the opposite direction that I needed to go. So it was difficult, but if that would have made it much easier. I just couldn't get it to go into that state.
Yeah. How are you feeling since this rescue? Yeah, how did you feel afterwards, and has that maybe positive energy stayed with you over the last few weeks?
So, there's always a self of accomplishment at the end. I mean, I felt great about it. It was just nice that we were able to do something. We did more harm or more good than harm, I should say. So it felt great. And then, of course, the more notoriety that comes with this, I have more people tagging me in videos and, saying really nice things. Thank you so much. God bless you. All those things, which anybody in my position would have done the exact same thing if they had the means. I'm pretty sure. So yes, it feels good. I like the fact that people appreciate it, and it's starting to slow down a little bit, but it still feels good. I would do it again 100 times over, just because it's the right thing to do. Yeah, I still feel good.
Good. Well, yeah, on I think behalf of everyone watching, yeah, big thank you to you for your courageousness, I guess, and yeah, ability to save the nurse shark that was in distress and in need of some help.